I fell in love 7 times, each kiss a reflection of who I was, until the last one taught me that the love I was searching for was never them. It was the version of myself I had yet to embrace. In a city where the sea whispered against old stone harbors and the air tasted like rain-soaked history, Elena Rivera lived a quiet, careful life. By day, she worked at the front desk of Museo de Aurelia, the city's beloved international art museum. She greeted strangers with polite nods, handed out floor maps, and answered questions she had memorized 100 times. It was the kind of job that asked little of her soul, but everything of her patience. Elena had grown used to living in the background. Her face was familiar. Her name was sometimes forgotten. She never stood out, never disrupted anything. Her life was arranged like a minimalist painting, simple, symmetrical, and untouched by the kind of love stories that echoed through the museum's exhibits. But inside her, there was an ache. Not desperation, but a gentle yearning for something beyond her glass counter, beyond the smiles of tourists who disappeared by evening. Something that made time slow down. Something that made the world feel less like a hallway of passing faces, and more like a story worth telling. And one evening, just as the sky turned silver and the city lights flickered awake, something impossible happened. She was alone, finishing the closing tasks, when a woman appeared before her. Not a visitor, not a colleague. Her presence didn't seem bound by time or logic. She was dressed in a flowing coat that shimmered like moonlight, her hair cascading like liquid ink, and her eyes held a knowledge that made the room feel suspended. She said nothing aloud, but Elena felt her meaning as clearly as if it had been spoken. A gift was being offered. 7 moments of love. 7 different encounters. 7 first kisses are not just romantic gestures but emotional revelations. Each one a reflection of something within Elena waiting to be awakened. The world shimmered slightly, like a painting touched by a breeze. Then everything began. The first moment brought Tobias, a theology graduate student working weekends cataloging the museum's ancient manuscripts. His hands were gentle, his presence patient. He radiated warmth like an old fireplace, steady and kind. With Tobias, time moved differently. Their meetings felt like shared silence in an old library, like sacred spaces filled with unspoken affection. He listened not just with ears, but with full attention, as if every word Elena uttered carried weight. She hadn't known how much she craved that kind of attention until she had it. With Tobias, she felt held, spiritually and emotionally, and for the first time, her heart whispered that she deserved softness too. But like all moments, it passed. The memory was etched into her like parchment. The second came suddenly in the form of Julian, a high-powered CEO who swept through the museum for a private gala. Immaculately dressed and commanding in his movements, Julian existed in a world of control and status. But with Elena, something softened. He noticed her in a way most people didn't. Not because she stood out, but because she didn't try to. Their connection was filled with tension, not the combative kind, but the kind that buzzed under the skin. He challenged her silences. She disarmed his arrogance. With him, love felt like a high-wire act, thrilling, terrifying, and impossible to ignore. He left as quickly as he arrived, his shadow long and unforgettable. The third was Levi, a celebrated Olympic gymnast turned celebrity, visiting the museum for a charity event. He was all energy and charm, his laugh echoing off marble walls, drawing others into his orbit like a comet. With Levi, Elena found herself swept up in spontaneity. He turned empty hallways into dance floors and made her forget how to be invisible. There was something healing about being wanted without needing to perform, just existing and being enough. Their love burned bright and brief. A spark flaring in the cold, he vanished before she could miss him, but the joy remained like the afterglow of fireworks. Then came Elias. Assigned to the museum as a private security specialist during a high-risk exhibit transfer, Elias was a man carved from stone, silent, disciplined, and unreadable. But his eyes betrayed him. They watched Elena with quiet intensity. In his stillness, she saw a world of guarded emotions. They never spoke much, but their connection pulsed beneath every glance. He was the kind of man who protected with his presence alone. With Elias, love felt like a storm building over still water. The danger wasn't outside, it was what stirred inside her. When the exhibit ended, so did he. No promises, no need for them. The fifth was Nico, a 23-year-old intern assigned to the museum's literature archive. He looked at her like she was stardust. His admiration was sincere, guileless, and painfully beautiful. They talked endlessly about poetry, favorite places, and half-forgotten dreams. With him, Elena felt weightless, as if she'd stepped into a story she once wrote as a teenager and finally found the ending. He adored her, not for who she might become, but exactly as she was. But love like that doesn't last forever. It's meant to remind, not remain. 5 kisses, 5 truths. Each man had mirrored something she didn't know she needed: safety, challenge, play, danger, and innocence. Elena found herself returning to the museum each morning changed. The paintings looked different. Her own reflection in the security mirror didn't feel foreign anymore. She was still Elena, still answering questions and filing reports. But inside, something was breaking open, not in pain, but in bloom. Her 6th love would arrive soon, and though she didn't know it yet, it would be the calmest of all. Elena had not expected peace to come wrapped in a person. But that was exactly what Rowan brought. The 6th moment arrived like a lullaby after a storm. Rowan was a travel writer, lean and sun-kissed, with eyes that mirrored every place he'd been. He walked into the museum not for an event, but by accident, seeking shelter from unexpected rain. She noticed him reading alone in the sculpture gallery, unmoved by the buzz of tourists. There was a stillness about him, a gravity that calmed the air. With Rowan, there were no grand entrances or bursts of intensity, just warmth that seeped in slowly, like morning light through heavy curtains. He stayed in Aurelia longer than he meant to. Day by day, he drifted into Elena's routine. They walked through lesser-known corridors of the museum, sat quietly in front of forgotten pieces, and shared long, unhurried evenings near the city's quieter edges, where the sea hummed and no one needed to fill the silence. His love wasn't urgent. It was permission. A space where Elena didn't have to earn affection or translate herself. With Rowan, she felt seen in her entirety, not as a dream or a fantasy, but as a living, breathing woman, full of contradiction. When he left, it didn't feel like abandonment. It felt like the tide receding, expected, inevitable. He had been the pause between heartbeats, the reminder that real love asks nothing more than presence. And then it happened. The 7th moment, the final one. Matteo, he had always been there. The quiet co-worker from the museum's restoration team. The man with ink-stained fingers who mended broken artifacts behind glass walls. He wore old sweaters and rarely spoke above a murmur. Elena had passed him in hallways, stood next to him during safety drills, and received emails signed only with a lowercase m. But now, in the closing chapter of this strange and tender journey, she saw him fully. His presence was not magic, not curated. It was real, tangible, familiar. He knew the exact hour she liked her coffee. He remembered when she'd switched from flats to boots. He noticed when she had been sad, even if she didn't say anything. While others made her feel like a fleeting wish, Matteo had made her feel like a constant. With him, love didn't bloom suddenly. It unfolded slowly, like petals reluctant to face the sun. He didn't try to fix her or impress her. He just remained, gently orbiting her world until she realized she had been moving with him all along. The final kiss wasn't cinematic. It didn't come with fireworks or a sweeping score. It was quiet, honest, and whole. Elena understood then. This journey was never about choosing one man. It was about finding pieces of herself scattered across 7 mirrors. Each reflection had taught her something vital about desire, joy, loss, trust, freedom, and home. The mysterious woman never returned. She didn't need to. Her gift had been given. Her work is complete. Life resumed its steady rhythm. Elena still walked the marble floors of the museum and still answered questions with a practiced smile. But everything inside her had changed. Her silence no longer stemmed from fear. Her stillness no longer meant invisibility. She had tasted 7 types of affection and came away not longing, but full. On cool mornings, she brewed coffee and sat near her window watching the world unfold. Sometimes she thought of Tobias's patience, Julian's fire, Levi's joy, Elias's gravity, Nico's sincerity, Rowan's peace, and Matteo's quiet devotion. They were no longer men she had to choose between. They were memories layered into her being, notes in the song of her selfhood. She never spoke of the experience to anyone, not because she couldn't, but because she didn't need to. The proof was in how she walked now, the way she met her own gaze in the mirror, the way she stopped looking for something to complete her. She had become her own answer. One late evening, just as the last museum lights dimmed and the ocean winds teased at the windows, she stood at the central rotunda alone. Her hands rested on the information desk. Everything was the same. Everything was different. Love hadn't changed her. She had changed herself through it. The world at last felt like a place she didn't have to tiptoe through, a place where she could take up space, speak or not, stay or go, be and belong. She closed her eyes and smiled, not because someone had loved her, but because she finally loved herself.